I don't think you can be happy enough and free enough in your life if you have a conscience that's guilty. You
Mhm.
know, if you're guilty in your conscience, if
So,
you feel that you've violated yourself or others, you your happiness diminishes.
hello and welcome to another episode of The Wealth Within Us. Today I have with me Natalie Botero, and she is a psychic, intuitive, angelic channel, and therapist. Welcome so much. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, Natalie.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. So prior to this, she just did a reading for me, which was amazing. And I want you to talk about that. But how did you get into this line of work? I mean, this is really amazing. You're a psychic intuitive, you are an angelic channel. So this is an amazing combination of skills that can really help people.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So, going back to when I first started the awakening process, knowing what I wanted to do in life, um, I I was at 19 years old. I volunteered at a homeless shelter in the east side of New York City, and I decided, working with the homeless, a large part of what was the best service was to sit down and listen to their stories. And having stayed at the homeless shelter as a volunteer and listening, I realized it dawned on me I want to be a psychologist. I want to work in mental health. A large part of the homeless population have chronic mental illness or just need to be heard. So I was there listening and I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. Then later in college, I was in college, and a couple of years later, my grandmother fell ill and I wasn't able to see her. And I was looking online, and I came across a Reiki energy work. It's the first time I ever heard of it. And Reiki energy work is a form of energy healing where a practitioner tunes you. And so I decided to get a Reiki attunement going because I can send her distance healing. So,
Yeah.
not being her Reiki promise that you can send a distance healing, and then knowing that distance healing even exists. Once I got attuned, and started to really work on mental health studies, getting into my studies, the work of Reiki started to heighten my psychic abilities. I went to Reiki classes and groups, and what I realized is that when you put your hand on someone, um, knowing where they need the healing the most, you're guided by intuition. So it's not logical, it's a feeling sense that is logical. But what I realized is the more I practiced, I could wave my hand over the heart chakra or the solar plexus or even the knees. And listening in that silent space of energy healing, I was hearing information that wasn't coming from me. And I realized it heightened my ability to get information in a channeling sense, not just my own. So I heard, and it was heightened in that ability. So after a while, I integrated my psychology studies, my counseling studies, went to grad school, and kept doing Reiki circles and Reiki groups. And now I integrate both. So I've done that since maybe 2001, and done a lot of Reiki and a lot of readings because they go together. And I like the fact that I stay grounded in Western psychology and Eastern psychology because it all goes together. And I would definitely say one thing I'm a proponent of is talk therapy. I'm a talk therapist as well as an energy worker, and the benefits of therapeutic talk analysis, psychoanalysis, psychodynamic work, and the intuition. I feel like integrating the left and right hemispheres of our thinking, and the knowledge that it brings you, learning pathology as well as humanistic work, and the transpersonal energy, and using angelic guides to help you and to hear your loved ones on the other side, to know that that really exists on the transpersonal level is what I love. So that's kind of what I do together is do that modality. So talking to someone about a life issue, I kind of try to move aside,
Mhm.
although I integrate my Western knowledge of psychology, but I get help from above. I'd like it to be a direct, loving source that brings the true guidance, not just my learning, but both integrated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It almost sounds like you kind of have a little bit of medical intuitive too, if you were, knowing where to place your hands or knowing what organ or spot of the body. So it sounds like that kind of plays a part into it too.
Absolutely. That's funny that you mentioned that because I did for a long time study, like Louise Hay really got me
Hmm.
into the spiritual meaning of illness. So, what I felt was listening to how the body talks. So, if someone has
Okay.
a knee injury would mean that they have a hard time moving forward, that the knees would represent moving forward. So it's like this, the emotion behind the illness is where the illness starts, because illness in the body, I believe, starts in the spiritual realm first, in the emotional realm, the wounds of childhood and
Yeah, I
life.
agree.
Yeah, so that all relates. So finding somebody come, not a doctor, but somebody comes in with neck pain, I can deduce that something's a pain in their neck in their life, and they've got to get it off their chest, or somehow get in alignment and stop avoiding pain, but address it radically. So
Mm.
yeah, so that kind of integrate too. Yeah, funny you mentioned that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it just sounded like that from talking to you. So I have to admit, one of my things is that I've always been not a proponent of talk therapy because I didn't think it did enough. So I love that you're adding the two. So how did you ever start out as just doing talk therapy? Because I personally feel that you do sort of need this energetic work or from the angelic realm or channeling or whatever it is, but you need something on top of just talking about it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So in my practice, and I worked in Roswell, north of Atlanta. I had my office. Now I work remotely, so it's a little bit different. But what I would do in my practice, a person would come in for a 90-minute session.
Mhm.
We would talk, and then they'd get right on the Reiki table. So talking was able to help people learn the lesson, draw the connection
Mhm.
in the intelligence, but the physical body was also incorporated, and laying them down and putting energy on their chakras wherever those issues were stimulated, and grounding them so that there would be an energetic shift as well as an intellectual shift. Because I agree, talk therapy on the intellect, it takes a while
Mhm.
to know what you're saying and actually do it. Talk therapy works, but it's not immediate. It takes a while to, down the road, you'll hear your therapist's voice in your head 8 years down the road. So I think talk therapy is beneficial, but energy work and what I'm doing with the other side feels more accelerated. So you're right. So doing those two, I felt the same way. I had been in talk therapy for
Okay.
years, but I needed something different to feel better as well. So that came
Yeah.
into
I've
yeah.
always kind of looked at those things as like it's like stuck energy. So even if you're talking about the same thing all the time, it's like it's stuck there and it needs
Mm-hmm.
released. And sometimes just talking about it to me sometimes just makes it stay stuck. So what
Yeah,
you're talking about, adding this whole component of energy work, that's the energetic release from the body, correct?
absolutely. And people will start to cry, or people will start to remember things because those trauma memories are escaping from the cellular memory of the body and the etheric body. So all of that energy, like the vacuum, the energy will lift up and dissipate. You're right. And I think it's our energy body is just as real as our physical body.
Mhm.
So working on that plane um, sometimes can be most directly effective, right? I do agree. Sometimes you have to stop talking about it and jump on the table and let yourself cry. Because, yeah, the emotion, if you're not expressing the emotion and releasing it, it'll be there mentally and emotionally,
Yeah.
and affect the body. It can make you ill, right? You
Mhm.
become having an illness all of a sudden. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's almost
Absolutely.
like your body is a river, and if it's not flowing and there's a
Hmm.
dam or pebbles or something that's in the way, then it's constantly having to go around that, which I would assume causes disease. And I call it disease. I'm like always about, well, it's just disease in the body. And there's
Hmm.
something blocked from keeping that energy flowing and moving.
Absolutely. There's a great book that I
Hmm.
reference a lot. It's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. you know,
Oh, I love that title.
you still got it. That book is so great because it shows a large part of an illness has the feeling behind it. Fear is a big one. And if it's not released or understood, that's why the talking helps you understand and remember, but the emotional release probably the most important thing. And many people who are grieving don't cry when they should or really let it out, for instance, and that's extremely important. That's laughing and crying, actually, I heard it's the best way to balance your chakras, even more than energy work.
Oh,
Laughing, crying will balance your body more than anything, like kids, right?
yeah.
So,
They
yeah,
kind of they wear their emotions on their sleeves.
that's right. And they're changing
No,
all the, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
true. That's true. And it's almost like when, so say something happens and I'll call up a friend or my sister or whoever, and I'll be like, "Ah," and then you're like, "Ah," and then all of a sudden you're like, huh, I feel so much
Uh-huh,
better now. And
that's right.
it's the things like that to me is like, okay, now it's like come full circle. I've expressed it, I've released it, and now it's gone. But it's the things that like fester. Like if I had said that, and then a week again, I'm still thinking about it. And then a month, I'm still thinking. And then a year, it's like, God, you know, and it's
Yeah,
those things I would you agree that are that's what causes all these issues and keeps us stuck. And not only just stuck, I think, in disease, but stuck from achieving our professional goals, our relationship goals, whatever, like our whole, like our life as a whole.
hmm hmm. I love that you realized and that you took the opportunity to ventilate and to express that, and then you saw the feeling, beneficial feeling from it. And I think we do have moments, all of us in our lives, where we have been stuck
Mm,
and where we're waiting for something to happen instead of knowing when to act. But I also feel, my guides told me this, that there's no such thing as a block. Nobody really is blocked. I
okay.
feel even if that illness shows up, that's a lesson that time is of the essence and you get unblocked in many ways. So if it's a temporary feeling of stuckness, it's also temporary and you move through just for the sheer discomfort of being stuck. That'll impel you to get unstuck like nothing else. So if we have a block, we're also concurrently moving through our blocks on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And I think that that's wonderful. That's the trajectory of life, is that you're going more towards your potential and your wholeness, and any obstacle is actually making you stronger and even stepping in more into your potential. So those rough roads are probably the biggest blessings you could ever find, because then you're forced to do your growth work and you're forced to say, boom, now's the time to get my dream going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
almost like you just said, because we live in this world of polarity, where
Hmm.
if we're experiencing, like you said, the pain and the discomfort, so then we know what pain and discomfort feels like. So now, because of that, it propels us to do the right thing. Or even you could take it to business. So I made this huge business failure or whatever it was. So now I'm going to take that and learn from that. And I would imagine that it's in the being aware of it, and I think that's sometimes where we struggle, like, you know, how some people, you're just like, well, I never learned the lesson of that, or I keep repeating these patterns over and over again. So where does that, I guess maybe I'm going towards, where does that come from, where a lot of us get stuck in these repeating patterns of whatever it is? It could be, I mean, it could be anything. It could be eating, it could be smoking, it could be, oh, I attract that same guy all the time, or I attract this same business issue all the time, or this same money thing, or this so whatever it is. There's so many things that we can repeat. How does that come about? Like how do you
Absolutely.
get through that?
It's the repetitive thing that keeps happening is like the symptom.
Hmm.
We want why that symptom keeps dropping onto our shoulders. And I feel that it revolves around a core wound, that if you are wounded on some level at some point in your life, early life, there's a core root, there's a thought, there's this self perception born from a wound that will, if we're not understanding our wound, and talk therapy can help us remember or connect the dots. Once you're aware of that core wounding with the help of a therapist, and you realize where it came from and how it affects you, that awareness will shift your propensity to repeat the same things. Like, why do I keep attracting the same kind of partner?
Hmm.
Why did happening? Well, there's a particular wounding or a core root issue that started. Maybe it was from your caregiver. So my mother and father were like this. So I'm used to attracting this person with similarities, or I'm trying to resolve a childhood issue that's gone, and I'm still trying to do it. So I'm unconscious in this. So it happens unconsciously, but when you get conscious of it, I don't believe you'll ever repeat it. You go on a different level of intentional, you who you're attracted to changes, for instance, or who comes near you. You're able to sense, nope, this is the smoke signal of my old pain, no thank you, and you can make a new choice. You can see it from a mile away, having done the work on your root issues.
Hmm.
So definitely able to stop doing that. And it's great to talk about it and say, this keeps happening to me. I'm afraid my life is going to, be doomed. And there you go. Here's the point in therapy where you're going to prevent that, and you're going to
Hmm.
go. And I think also it's the brain. We're stuck in one area. We need to connect the dots. The synapses have to connect. We have to tell our stories, and our intelligence advances. So in therapy, learning anything you're doing on yourself, you're increasing the amount of brain power that you use, and you're increasing your intelligence and your wisdom. So the brain is important, and something about the energy work, the talking, the things you do for self development will increase your cognitions and your ability to just choose and to create behaviors and conditions that you may not have been able to when you were younger, of course, right? So I do
Yeah.
believe getting older is getting wiser, and getting older, you're supposed to be happier. That's what I look forward to.
I like that. So it almost seems like by
Yeah.
talking, we're
Hmm.
bringing about our awareness. And I've always found that when I am sort of living unconsciously in certain areas of my life, once it becomes into my awareness,
Hmm.
now I can't, it's like now it's there. Now I cannot become unaware of it because it showed up and now I have to deal with it.
Absolutely. It showed up. Here's the truth. And when the truth strikes and you're able to see the
Mm.
truth, then whether it's uncomfortable or not, it's a blessing. So the truth will set you free. And once,
Yes.
even sometimes, you don't have to go back in your life and experience the pain.
Mm.
It can dissolve in a session. You can say, oh, connected the dots, moving on. I'm glad that's out of my system.
Yeah. It's almost like you neutralize the event. You're like,
Right.
oh, I see that for what it was now. And it wasn't this big ta-da that I made of it. And
Yeah.
it is, it's bringing up the awareness, then brings a whole new perspective around it. Does that make
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
correct?
I would say so. Absolutely. Absolutely. Perspective. And yeah, I would say that it's like the aha moment,
Mm.
and graduating a stage of your life. Like, we go through stages, and in those stages, we were young, or we were operating the best we could on what we knew.
Hmm.
Now we know more. So we're graduating a certain type of relationship or condition or income level that we asked for, or career. And now that we've learned, we graduate and then go on to a new condition. It's part of maturation, and forgiving ourselves for
Ugh.
doing the we could. If I only knew more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think it's not only just forgiving ourselves, but for thanking whatever the thing was that happened for the lesson that we got out of it. Because sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish that would have never happened. But then,
Hmm.
well, if that wouldn't have happened, then I wouldn't have realized this and I wouldn't have realized that. So as much as they kind of stink going through it and it feels awful, I think that's where hindsight comes in because hindsight's always 2020. And you're like, yeah, if that wouldn't have happened, then this, and well, now I wouldn't be in this good spot where I am. So I do try to look at past events, but sometimes when we're going through them, it's not always the most pleasurable thing.
Absolutely.
That's why we need
Absolutely.
to talk about it.
Yeah. It's almost like you've got to save your life from some of those things coming back
Mm,
to you. And I feel like every time you go through a situation that you don't like and you realize that you're doing it and why, after analyzing it, you got to forgive yourself. You got to love yourself. Like the whole point would be that you really work on compassion for yourself for going through that, for feeling responsible, and then you love yourself for it. You have to love your mistakes and forgive, and your ability to take responsibility for those things and change them and make amends. So it's transformational because instead of judging yourself or cringing in embarrassment, you
mhm.
want to up and say, "Well, I was younger, or I was I was abused as a child, and I didn't know any love, so I found myself in a situation where I needed to learn self love and take back my power from someone who abused me in adulthood, for instance. So that connection ultimately has to lead to self love and self compassion, um, and proud of yourself. Like many times I sincerely feeling myself proud of my clients. I'm proud of them. I feel like I want to celebrate the fact that they're making so many breakthroughs, and I love them and I want them to love themselves. As part of what I love is that I can love people in that set amount of time, develop that relationship, and hopefully I'm transmitting that they can love themselves too in the space that I'm holding. Like Carl Rogers, the therapist, really was the person-centered, the father of person-centered therapy. You have to hold people unconditional positive regard in order to help them at all. And I think people have to hold themselves in unconditional positive regard as well. It's probably the most healing aspect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I've always felt that. And it took me years to really kind of get this that we're always looking for forgiveness from someone else, from a family member or someone that you had an article or an argument with, or you're looking forgiveness from God or creator, source, whatever you call it. But especially when it comes to God, creator, source, it is all unforgiving. What we're really looking for is the forgiveness of ourselves because we can't control what other people do. If you don't forgive me for something that I did, then I
Mm-hmm.
can't change that, but I have control over forgiving myself. It doesn't mean that I think it makes it right, whatever it was, but it's the forgiveness that really it's kind of like the truth. The truth sets it free, and I think forgiveness sets it free too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. That's the age old teaching, right, in the Bible with Jesus, and um, it's you can't. I don't think you can be happy enough and free enough in your life if you have a conscience that's guilty. If you're guilty in your conscience, if
So,
you feel that you've violated yourself or others, you your happiness diminishes.
mhm.
So the way out of that is to face it and forgive yourself, clearing your conscience. I think people who can laugh and have fun have a clearer conscience because nobody is perfect, but they've dealt with bygones be bygones within oneself and others. If the bygone is there and you realize, God, we did the best we could. We weren't perfect. Um, I made amends where I needed to. And I vow not to do it again or to do something different next time, not make the same mistake. Then your relationships and your personality is freer too. There's a lot of health benefits and benefits to happiness, personal happiness, when you're forgiving of yourself and others too. Not easy, because sometimes we feel, well, forgive and forget's not the easiest thing. Believe me, probably the most difficult
Yeah.
thing is to, well, it's a constant spiritual work in life to learn forgiveness. Yeah, and it takes years sometimes. Yeah, can't acknowledge the difficulty of that process too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always kind of feel that we're always waiting for somebody else. Whether it's to change or whatever it is, oh, once this person changes, but I've often found that, I'm the one that has to change it. I'm no one else. I can't control what other people do, and no one else is going to change. But if I change, then my change can have an effect on other people. So I've always said that to other people, even, like my daughter or whatever. I'm like, no, you can't wait for people to change. You have to be who you want to be. And then they'll either change along with you or they won't. And then that's where you get into the, let go. Sometimes you do have to let go of people.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard because sometimes you have to have the hard talk with them that you have avoided for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, changing yourself is totally up to you. And it is the only thing you can do. You can't change the other person's response or reactions. But yep, the only thing you have control over is what you put in your body and how you respond to things, you know.
And what you say out of your body. We've all
Yeah,
done that. We've
exactly.
all been like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, but it flew out anyway.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I love that this the the this conversation is turned into that spiritual concept of forgiveness and
Yeah.
self-love. The truth of your responses are under your well, sometimes under your control, but really have to be taken that can't control the outside, but you can find your freedom by looking within and changing oneself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so many people, they're looking for a savior. They're looking something for something outside of themselves, but it's
Right.
like you already have it within you. And most of us don't, so many people just don't realize is that saying that you're the one that you've been waiting for. You're not
Mm-hmm.
waiting for anybody else. Look inside yourself, and everything you need to heal yourself is right inside, including forgiveness and guilt and all of these emotions that we all feel that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes don't feel so nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Sitting in your discomfort,
Mhm.
not the thing, but it's the bravest thing sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
And you're right. I think, like what you said is, yeah, yeah, I agree. It's like
yeah.
like there was an article I was about to write and I stopped, but the topic was going within, but where is that? Going
Oh, yeah,
where is deep within? How do you even start? Like
yeah.
deep within, maybe it's the thoughts you're thinking every day or the feelings that you're thinking, going within.
Hmm.
It's very easy to go without when you're uncomfortable, but you
Yeah,
realize it's going to have, you're going to meet a level of discomfort, but don't try to get out of it. Sit in it, let it pass. That would be the start to going within is
mhm.
wrong, what's dark, what's negative, and getting to the other side. You can't kind
Yeah.
of bypass.
Exactly, not going in and beating yourself up because gosh, I'm sure all of us have done that at some point for whatever it was, big or
Mm-hmm.
small, but we've all gone in and been like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And you're
Right.
literally beating yourself up, but it's to go in, recognizing those feelings, and then showing compassion for yourself or for
Right.
whoever else was involved. And again, going back to the forgiving yourself, because if someone else isn't going to forgive you, then that doesn't mean that you shouldn't forgive yourself.
Exactly. It has probably, uh, probably has less, well, it has effect if someone doesn't forgive you, I suppose, but you have to keep moving forward on some
Mhm.
semblance of, I have a right to be here, even though,
Yeah.
and I right and I have a duty to not repeat hurting people this way. But yeah, going within, most of us, we're all we're going to meet is our self-consciousness or our discomfort, our feeling bad about ourselves, where our self-esteem is.
Hmm.
Like it's so easy to go without and say, save me from this, but it is uncomfortable to go back and be aware, like the 12 steps talk about that, like the point of transformation. First of all, you've got to accept that wherever you are in life and that you are powerless over things, but you're going to try to change and transform that and become more conscious
Yeah.
and overcome the need to find an addiction to fill a void, um, and to learn yourself, better. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
It's
think
that
that
personal, yeah, it's that personal responsibility, and taking
right,
personal responsibility just means taking responsibility, not beating yourself up in the process,
absolutely.
which
Like
is
we
so
want to feel
important.
good, but the only way to feeling like that sometimes is going through feeling bad. But feeling bad, you don't have to, right, beat yourself up. There is value and healing in going into your pain.
Mhm.
um, but for the purpose of releasing your pain and not living with it as feeling that you deserve that pain. Like there's worth in going through that pain, but you're a worthy individual. You deserve not to live with such enormous pain. That's the point, right? The
That is
pain.
so true. Yeah. And I think so much of us overlook the self-worth part of it. Yeah. And,
Yep,
and and feeling that we don't have value, when the reality and the truth is that we're all equally as valuable.
right.
It's each other that we put that's our own construct. That's not truth.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. I thought, I heard that the Buddhists, in the Eastern philosophy and in Buddhism, in Tibet areas there, the Buddhists have no concept of what low self-esteem is. They
Oh,
don't even understand low self-esteem. I suppose in their culture, self-esteem is not really understood or prevalent or
yeah.
necessary. The West, we think of self-esteem, and we've got collective low self-esteem, fluctuating self-esteem.
Yeah.
That's our culture. But to think of the Buddhists don't even have a
Wow.
concept of self-esteem would make you think.
Well, you
Yeah,
would think, now that you're mentioning that, and I hadn't really thought about it, but truthfully, I feel that low self-esteem or low self-worth, it's kind of taught.
yeah.
You know
It's
what I
taught.
mean?
It's
It's almost taught and it's ingrained so much. Oh, you didn't do that. You didn't get the A. You didn't get, these things, these things that don't really matter for the character of a person, that actually when you are put down for them, it devalues your character in an untrue way. So I kind of think that some of that stuff we're really taught.
that's right. That's right. It's societal. It's cultural condition.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is a fun time, a good time in life. It's very difficult to. Wars are breaking out. There's a lot of shootings and violence. And that reflects how we value human life, how we value ourselves, where our importance on our worth is. And
Hmm.
not only we have a low self-esteem conditioned in us that comes to us, but as a collective, violence is the first indication that our value of ourselves and each other is
Yeah.
at a devastating low. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
you flip that too, it's like, if I have such high value and worth on myself, then I'm most likely going to value your worth and your life additionally. But when people don't value other people's lives, then there's definitely, I feel, some kind of a disconnect going on. Then you really don't value your own either. Although some people covet their own lives and are willing to throw away other people's for material gain.
right.
I
We
just went
could
off on a tangent.
no. Anyway, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I agree. So,
Yeah, it's kind of
you
crazy when you think about it.
yeah, it is. And at the same time, there's such a contrast with a lot of us
Mhm.
are on our consciousness, working to be conscious. That word is a buzzword.
Yes.
When your therapy, your spiritual work, right at the cusp of violence that makes no sense. A lot of people working on themselves, working on
Hmm.
each other, valuing compassion, the teachings of Buddhism. So there's a that dual thing is that contrast is
Yes.
more people are getting uncomfortable or upset with things and want to change within. And yeah, so this
Yeah,
is the end times and the beginning times, I suppose.
exactly. Because
Concur.
like you said, when you look at it as this collective, so if we are all collective, which I do believe that we are, if I'm hurting you, then I'm hurting myself at the same time. And I
That's
think
right.
that for a lot of people, that's a really hard concept to grasp.
Yeah. Hmm. There's a lot of division or otherness,
Mhm.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. When really we're all the same. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
where we are in this whole scheme of things.
Hmm.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really are all the same. I have
Like
to
the
think
Buddha.
with that oneness, it's like when you get an idea and you're like, oh, I'm just plucking it out of there. That just came to me. It's like, no, it was out there and you just happened to grab it. And if you don't, someone else, like we've all had that man, I came up with that idea a while ago, but it's already out there and someone is going to pluck it from the ether.
That's right. That's right. And absolutely. And the thing is, we're all the same. We're all uniquely different. But one of the biggest commonality is we want to be happy. We want to be free of suffering. Every single
Yeah,
being wants to
yeah,
be free of suffering. So if you're making someone suffer, you're going to feel suffering. There is a consequence, whether you know it or not. There is a tear down of your happiness quotient in life, and it hurts both people to do
yeah.
that. Plus it affects the whole as a
Yeah, it
whole.
does.
Yeah.
And I do kind of feel that we're all seeking, I used to say personal and financial freedom, but I think it's like personal and an abundance freedom because
Hmm.
we feel so trapped with this personal freedom. Oh, I can't go here or I can't go there, or, this is exclusive for this or that's exclusive to that. And then the financial freedom is like, well, I don't have the monetary to do this or to do that. And I really do feel at our core, that's what most of us are really seeking is this personal and financial freedom in our lives.
Sure. I feel that that's personal financial freedom is a wonderful condition in life to be in, but it can also become a substitute for going within,
Mm,
right? Personal freedom, financial freedom, it's like sometimes seen as the antidote to what we really want, which is ease and
yes.
more creativity, quality time. And those can happen whether you
Abundance,
have
so we're
fun
not in lack
or
and
not. Right.
scarcity.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Like sometimes having more money means more work and more stress. And so what's the point unless you've already got the feelings of ease and meeting your needs?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, meeting one's needs on an internal level, you can feel you have it all, even if your bank account fluctuates, which it always
Oh.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, financial freedom is good, but I always wonder, why does the law of attraction work in the United States, but not in Africa or a third world country? What is it that we don't see in our privilege and in our fortunate? We're so fortunate in this country to have what we have and to even consider independent wealth and stuff. It doesn't happen many places, other than our country. We're very fortunate, so to
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, but at the same
And
time,
you
I
do
think.
see it happening like in places like you'll read about, especially with women. I think women are much, much more embracing this whole thing. And, women in other countries, they're developing their own businesses. And, they
Mhm.
even have, I forget what it's called, but where you can buy something and it'll have like women owned sustainability or women owned collective. I've seen documentaries or products like coffee where it's just all women owned coffee in South America or women owned clothing or whatever in Africa or something like that. So I do feel that it is catching on and especially with women because just from my own personal observation, I think that personally that masculine feminine balance has been very off in the world, and I think where we are going is we are going back towards balancing out that masculine and feminine energy.
Absolutely. And I feel like women doing that, um, masculine and feminine in a woman, and it's integrated,
Mm.
that yang principle that we associate with masculinity and the receptive piece, where it's about cooperation, love, and sharing. I think that exists in both men and women
Oh, I do
anyway.
too. Yeah.
And celebrating that, women of power who have the yang and the yin going on for them, that is good. And yeah, I think it's also representation. More women deserve equal rate, we equal wages and opportunities,
Hmm.
privilege,
Yeah.
and Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, and if you think about it too, it's not just us humans that have the masculine and feminine. You figure the earth as it is, like the earth needs to keep its own balance of masculine and feminine too. And when we're interacting with that with our own stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
always would say that, yeah, Mother Nature will always win in the end.
Right.
Mother Nature will always balance itself out, even at the
Yeah,
cost of us.
that's right. That's right. And I this evolution, what we're this conversation and all that we're thinking and we're doing every day is evolution. Can't stop evolving. Um,
Exactly.
everything we
Yeah,
pick up,
evolving, expanding.
right?
And now I think is a great time to be alive, although sometimes on the outside it seems a little, ooh, but it
Hmm.
really is. I think we are on the cusp of great change. So back to the within, how do you work with people, or what are your suggestions? Because I know I meditate every day, just
Hmm.
about. And are you saying going within, is that a meditation practice? What does going within look like in practice?
Sure. One thing, meditation's not the easiest thing for me. But being in silence, whatever I'm doing, whether I'm sitting intentionally for meditation, I like quiet. I think that quiet and low stimulation is almost conducive to meditative states. I
Yeah.
can be doing things, but having quiet and no TV on or keeping the phone away from you, laying down, maybe some soft music, but the quiet and a peaceful condition, I think it's going within, first of all, is just be peaceful. Make sure you've got some unstructured, peaceful condition.
Okay.
Whatever times quiet could be anything. And that is sometimes easier and more accessible than meditation time. Peace out. Just do something that pieces you out. And then that has a good effect. That's for me.
Yeah.
Being in any environment, make sure it feels peaceful. Your bedroom, your car, cleaning it out. I want serenity in that area. Create serenity.
Yeah, or like cooking or
Mm.
crafting
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever it
too.
is that you're whatever like knitting or whatever your thing is that almost brings you into sort of meditative quiet space where it's kind of I think the key would be you're alone with yourself and your thoughts, whatever thoughts are coming
Mhm.
in.
Yeah, and to pay attention to those thoughts. Part of meditation, right? And some people maybe try to stop their thoughts. I can't stop my thoughts. I think them through. I have to think them through. And those thoughts are as long as you're not always acting on the impulsive
Hmm.
part of your thought, you're having an interesting listen into what goes on within you through the thoughts that you think. And um, I think those are very valuable. The unique individual thinking the way they do, you can find yourself by the way
Yeah.
that you're thinking. You find who you are just by the thoughts you think, the interests, your proclivities, and even your weaknesses and the hard stuff that you deal with. Find yourself, listen to those conversations that you're in. You find out what you value when you're obsessing. What you love when you obsess about it or worry about it. So that's worthy of exploration.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what would your advice be for people to start that are just starting to go within?
Hmm. Just sitting intentionally. And then if you're having any drama
Mm-hmm.
or um, conflict, I would say finding a coping mechanism like creativity, for instance, something like you mentioned, creative goal setting and creative conditions changing or solving problems, that's a worthy venture. If you're in tumultuous relationships, you're in some sort of drama or dynamic. If you're trying to control the outside, if things aren't working, you can ask yourself, am I trying to control the uncontrollable? Do I deserve that kind of repetitive wheel? And an antidote would be find your thing, find your coping mechanism, find a way, like you said, to create something of value and of beauty and express yourself with that. Um, So they say Elaine Joy was a great author about the empath, and it's like you're either on the drama triangle, bully, victim, rescuer issues in your relationships, or to get off of the drama, you're on the creative path.
Mm.
Be on a creative path. Make sure that you disengage from drama and suffering and do something about it. Create. Just
Oh,
involve yourself. There's no problem being a little selfish with time,
mm-hmm.
um,
Agree.
and create some new conditions.
Oh.
Yep.
How would so how would a session with you look like? So people that want to work with you after listening to this conversation, how would a session with you look like or working with you look like?
Absolutely. So, I used to have my office, but now I'm remote. The pandemic changed everything. So, by phone or by Zoom, either way, whichever's most comfortable. I'm remote and it's easy on the overhead costs. So, I do have affordable prices for my work. So, people text me and set up a time, and we can do Zoom or on the phone. And a lot of the time, I meet my regular clients every week or every other week, and we have therapy and angelic guidance come through. So we're talking to our angels and we're talking to our human side, and it's a wonderful synergy to do that. So I have my great clients. So pretty easy. You don't have to go to an office. You can save a buck.
Nice. Do
Yeah,
you have a website that people can go to?
I do. I have a blog. Yes, I do have a blog. It's a WordPress blog, nataliebotero.wordpress.com.
Okay.
If you press and look up Natalie Botero. I just have articles about the work I do and stuff like that. So, but the best way to reach me is just to text me or call me. I'm really kind of available to people, and I do make that a priority.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's nice. All right.
Yeah,
Well, is there any
great.
parting words of wisdom that you can
Sure.
leave us with?
Well,
We've kind of gone all over the place today.
the wisdom I would say is that if you liked our talk and you want to talk more and you want to experience the modality with the angels and therapy, um, give me a call. I do hour sessions, but if people are committed to doing ongoing therapy,
Mhm.
I offer a discount because I want therapy to be accessible. So I do make it very affordable for people. And I want you to just give me a call, 510-830-8061, and try it out. And an hour would be a big discount if you're committed. I get better results when people
Yeah.
call, work on the same issue until things shift.
Hmm.
You know,
I find
it's,
that one time is just like never enough.
yeah.
And it's not like you said, if you do it once, it's not a very big commitment either. So when you are committed, you want to do a couple weeks, a couple of months, a year, whatever it is for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's a great boost to the week. It's uplifting. All my sessions
Yes.
spirit in tandem, it's uplifting. Therapy's supposed to make you feel good. That's what I think. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not easy. Sometimes you don't feel good, but I like the therapy. The therapeutic part is that you're supposed to feel better in life, and you're working towards that. So the uplifting part, never a bad thing to call for an hour a week or so and get a
Mhm.
boost.
It's life changing, actually.
Absolutely, it is. That's
Really,
not
you
only
can change your life.
changes your life. Thank you. Yes. Absolutely. That's
Well,
thank
I
you.
am going to have all of your information in there in whatever platform that you're watching this on. All that information will be available to you. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time. I think this was a really incredible conversation and a very well needed conversation, especially if there's people out there that are feeling this way and they're kind of not sure what to do and they maybe don't feel like just doing the talk therapy, that there is so much more out there. And we're all looking for results quick. We can't deny that. We're all looking for faster results. And knowing that we definitively get faster results with the methods that you do. And I mean, you're so peaceful and calm to talk to. You're so enjoyable to talk to. It's
This is
just so
so
calm
wonderful.
and at ease.
You are so easy to talk to, Michelle,
Thank
and you just come
you.
up, have the greatest wavelength, and it's so inspiring to kind of riff off your thoughts and mine. This was incredible for me. Thank you so much
Oh, well, I
for
thank you. Maybe we'll have to have you back
today.
and then do some
Okay.
other fun stuff.
Thank It's usually would be nerve-wracking to be on a podcast or, heard all around, but you made it so safe and natural. So I appreciate.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And we definitely will have you back. And for everybody else, stay tuned for the next episode of The Wealth Within Us.